welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Bees. I'm really excited about this week. I'm a little bit relieved as well. Let me get the relief out of the way. I've taken off a fair chunk of my honey. I wasn't going to say like loads of honey. I've taken off a decent amount of honey, but I've got it off finally. I've got my treatments on. I've got the bees fed. And I don't know about you, but when I get to that point in the year, I kind of sit there and just think, oh, thank goodness for that. That is a relief. And it depends which way you look at things, because where I am at the moment, there's a little bit of a ling heather flow. You can really smell it when you go up there. And it's not much because the poor weather's coming in, but you can smell it. And I'm sitting there yesterday after taking the honey off. Treatments are in, feeders on, little bit of feed on, loads of space in the brood box. And you can smell the heather and you think, oh, I'm missing the heather flow, aren't I? I'm not going to get any of that heather honey. But I really don't care. I'm so not passionate. I am passionate about it, but I'm such a strong believer that this is a good system because I've done it over and over again now, and it works really well. And you do get a little bit of remorse kind of at this point in the year when you might look at other beekeepers looking at their supers and they get an extra super or the flow's on, and you think, oh, my bees could be producing the honey there. And it just takes me back to the trauma of getting that wrong and thinking the bee should be producing honey now. It's sunny outside, there's a flow on, right? Let's just keep on stacking the supers on and exhaust the bees and let the viral load of the varroa mite take over because I want some more honey. And then once the honey's off, you kind of think, oh, do you want some help with that really bad varroa mite? Okay, I'll try and help you now. And then it's too late. And then the colony fails over winter. And like, that's horrible. I never forget that. And you get the same experience every single year. But like opening up colonies in January or February or March and seeing that they're all dead and that they've all dwindled away to nothing and kind of like spotty brood all over the place and a few like holes in the cappings and bees with their tongues hanging out. It's just, it sticks with you, but it's the smell. It's the smell of cleaning it up and all of the effort, all of the little things, the little details are the ones that get me, where you're taking out the frames and maybe it's one of the frames that you remember where the nail's gone in like a slightly jaunty angle. And it kind of brings all of that back and you think there's a huge amount of work that goes into every single one of these beehives. And the way that they work, you need to build this symbiosis with the beekeeper. It's not just about buying a colony of bees, sticking them somewhere, getting loads of honey from them, and then killing them over winter. Like, it sounds really horrible, doesn't it? A lot of beginner beekeepers make that mistake because they don't understand that in order to get your bees ready for winter, you need to be doing it now. It's August, it's the middle of summer, it's the middle of the summer holidays, and you need to have done the first steps of getting your bees ready for winter now. People are starting to realize it, though. I'm seeing a real general trend towards earlier treatment, earlier honey harvests, focusing on the right time of the year. We're in the post-harvest season. It's kind of like a 2 to 3 month season where you're doing all of these things for the bees to prepare them for next year. You're not doing stuff at the moment to like, come on, bees, give me some more honey. It's a long-term relationship, and they need care now in order to secure next year's honey crop. So when you start thinking about it like that, I see it in a completely different way. I see it as, okay, I'm quite happy the ling heather's flowing now because I've got a lot of bees on double brood. They're going to take that honey and they're going to build themselves a really nice, diverse overwintering supply of honey, lots of different pollen in there, lots of different honey because we're in a nice mixed environment. And it means I'm going to save money on feed. It means I'm going to save money on going and doing that much like messing around with the bees. I'm just going to leave them. And this is the hardest lesson. And I will get on to doing some comments. I'll go through all of the questions in the comments. Don't worry today, we're not doing it on a Q&A. I confused people last time. So it will just be in the comments and I will answer all the questions. But I would say the best piece of advice that I can give you at this time of the year, do the standard stuff, get your honey off, get your varroa treatments in, feed them, heft them, kind of go back and you're trying to judge just giving the bees just a little bit just to keep them treading water until they're going to produce their winter bees, and then you're going to back feed them and get them through or get them up to wait to winter. But the biggest piece of advice, and everyone gets this wrong, and I still kind of get caught out a little bit on this, is stop going into your beehives now. Could have done it about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's a bit of a strange season, this one, but there's no need to be going into the brood nest anymore. Like, just don't do it. Once you've done your final inspection of the year, you've checked that the queen is good, you've checked that the brood is good, you've treated them for mites, and you've put the feeder on, there is no reason to be going back in. You're much better off guessing. Every question that you need answering now, barring a couple of ones if things do go drastically wrong, but for the majority of people, every question that needs answering now, you can guess, and guessing and getting it wrong is much, much better than trying to kind of go in and work something out by pulling out frames and squishing your queen. The frames at this time of the year are very different. When the bees start building them out for overwintering, they really go to town. Like they fill every single little gap because there's nothing above them. There's no additional space elsewhere. So the last thing you want to be doing is pulling frames out and damaging queens. It is an absolute nightmare. Right, I'm going to jump into some of the questions. Got a few people saying good morning. Got Simon. Hi, Simon. Hi, John. Hi, Joseph. Jason. James. Denby Honey. Paul. Peter. Dean. Paul. Lots of people dialing. Thank you very much for all of your support. Right. Simon says he's in a lay-by on the A14, so not long here. 5-hour round trip to Norwich to pick up some unused hydro press. £105 result. That is a bargain. I love a hydro press. For anyone who doesn't know, a hydro press is a brilliant tool for getting heather honey out of an extractor. Yeah, it stops you having to actually use an extractor, which is really nice. So normal way of doing it with heather honey, it's thixotropic, so it's kind of like jelly. If you just go through the normal process and uncap it, put it into an extractor and try and spin it out, radially or tangentially, kind of either of the extracting methods, then you're not going to get much honey out at all. In order to make it liquid, you have to agitate it. So what you'll see, you'll get like heather looseners or heather agitators or prickers, and they take the frames out, they uncap them, or you can actually do this without uncapping. It saves the process. They just prick the honey, loads of little needles through, and it instantly liquefies it. You can see this with ling heather honey as well, like when you get it in the jar, because it's kind of like solidy jelly. But if you get the spoon in and mix it up like that, it's just liquid. I'm guessing there's a proper science term. I'm thinking non-Newtonian fluid, but I know that's not right. So Simon can correct me on exactly what the term would be for a thixotropic ling heather honey. However, that process is not only very, very expensive to build an extraction system, and for bigger commercial operators, it does make sense because you can restore the comb. But for anybody else, go and get a secondhand hydro press for £105 that's been unused from Norwich, like Simon did, and then you've got the easiest way to extract it. The only downside of it is that you lose all of your comb each year, but a really nice upside of that is that you get lots of comb, so you get lots of wax, get a huge amount of wax in order to do different things with. But the system is just so much nicer as well. I remember with my heather honey, like I had the loosener, but I've sold it now because I didn't have that much heather honey, so the process for retaining the comb wasn't that good. But this was the frustration with the process, which was you'd uncap the honey, you'd go through the process of loosening it, put it in the extractor, you'd get it out, you'd be able to spin it out, and then you get it into the bucket, and then you have to filter it. And filtering it was like another equally challenging and time-consuming process. So I just thought this isn't really worth it. I'm just going to stop doing it altogether. But then I looked at the hydro press and I thought I'll give the hydro press a go because that does make a lot more sense on a small scale. So what I've done is I bought a hydro press. You get like a 20-litre one, there's a 40-litre one. I got an 80-litre one just to make it a little bit easier on scale. Kind of wish I'd gone for the 40-litre. I think 40-litre is probably the sweet spot. But what's so nice about the hydro press is it does the filtering for you at the same time. This is how it works. Instead of having frames, like wired frames of foundation in your honey soup, you go for unwired. You just put a piece of foundation in. You could even just put starter strips in there. Because what you're going to do at the end of the year is you shake the bees off or blow the bees off. And then instead of uncapping it, you just cut out that big section of honey, like a big, massive chunk of honey, chuck it in the hydro press. Before you chuck it in, you get this really nice fine mesh and you kind of just like place it all around the side. And you just fill up this trough. It's like a donut-shaped trough. Just chuck all your honey in. Just every single frame, take it out, cut all the honey out, chuck it in. And then when you get to the top, there's like a little clamp. You clamp this thing on. And then you get a hose. And you connect a hose to it. And then there's, I don't know the right terms. I should know. I was in pipework for ages. You get some sort of gauge on the side, yeah, that ramps up the pressure. And then inside, there's a bladder. So right in the middle. So you have a bladder in the middle. And then all the way around the outside, you have honey. Filters on the edge and then a collection tray underneath. And then what happens is as you raise the pressure, it inflates this bladder like that, pushes all the honey out through the mesh into a bucket. And I remember the first time I did it, I just thought it's filtered it. it's filtered the honey as we do it. Like it's combined my two processes together, and it was so much easier. Like I would say, hydro pressing heather comb honey is one of the most fun, most simple, and most pleasurable extraction experiences that you will have, but you lose the comb. So it's weighing up what's more important to you. It's way more fun than just standard extraction, because I think it's like cutting it out is dead simple. You can't really get it wrong. And then the hydro press, you can't really get it wrong as well. You just need to be there with the bucket. And the fact that it comes out like pre-filtered, if you use the right mesh size, is very, very good. I'm enjoying on Circle being able to like take my time more with the questions. It's nice. Have a little natter and just drink my coffee. For anybody watching this on YouTube, so what I've been doing now is I've been downloading this video and then I release it the next day on YouTube. If you want to watch it live at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, you can over at hiveq.com. And then for anyone watching as well, I'll stick a link up because you can get 30 days free trial at hiveq.com. I'll stick the link below so you can see what it's all about. Actually, quite a good point to go in and share my screen. See if I can share my screen. I just wanted to show. Oh, I can't do it. I'm so bad when it comes to tech. I'm going to be looking over there. Right, okay, sharing my Hive-Q screen now. I just wanted to show you around because a few people said they enjoyed this last week, so I thought I'd come over here and have a look, see what's going on. There was one thing though, yeah, that I just want to show you on it because it made me really like quite, not emotional, Rob, but it was nice. It was something that I saw in here that was really, really nice. It made me smile. And it's nice for the community as well. So you'll see where I'm going. So lots of posts. There's lots of posts. This is one that caught my eye. Honey jarring area. Let me double click in here. Oh no, there's no double clicking there. Okay, so honey jarring area by Robert Slater. He says, currently converting our old stock bull shed to a honey jarring area. First time I've erected one of these suspended ceilings, nice and easy to work with. So that's like a really, like many people would have looked at that and thought, okay, what's the big deal about that? The reason that I like that is that Rob is one of our very, very early and very good customers. So Rob has bought hundreds of queens from us, like probably close to 1,000 queens now, maybe not that many, but definitely hundreds of queens over the years, and really likes Black Mountain Honey queens. So he's hugely experienced with our queens, but a hugely experienced beekeeper, bee farmer as well. And you can tell by the scale of this post here, can't you, that this isn't someone with a couple of beehives in their back garden. This is someone who kind of knows what they're doing. And this is someone who completely, like on their own, has just signed up to Hive-Q and is now sharing their advice with people and saying, oh yeah, I'm just using this new suspended ceiling. Here you go, here's an idea. And it's transforming beekeepers. It is, because you don't come in with no knowledge. Like if you're a member of a community like this and you have questions, then you can put your questions on and you'll get answers back. But just by being there, you get exposure to like different levels of experience in beekeeping. And some things you might look at and say, I don't really understand that. And some things you look at and you say, that saved me like quite a lot of money there. That saved me a lot of time. I was thinking of doing it like this, but you've just like, you've solved it with an off-the-shelf product. So I really like the fact that Rob was there and Rob was in there contributing. And there's a few people in there, and you know who you are, who have done lots and lots of contribution. I should probably zoom in a little bit when I share my screen, shouldn't I? There we go. Zoomed in a bit for you. Let's have a look at some of the other things I've got in here as well. So Queen's taking a break. Let's have a look at that. It says, I didn't see any, Jim says, I didn't see any eggs yesterday and I inspected my hive. Plenty of larvae in different stages at around 6.5 frames capped brood. But should you be worried that there's no eggs? And again, like as a beginner beekeeper, if you've got yourself a nuke this year and you took a 6-frame nuke and you built it up and you're going in and doing your weekly inspections, and every time you've been seeing eggs, and then you go in at this time of the year and you're like, no eggs. It's a queen, there's brooding all stages, like I think they've got enough space, but there's no eggs. Like, what's going on? Is that okay? And it's just good to have like the collective arm around your shoulder, because there's tons of reasons why there might not be eggs at this time of the year. Some are slightly concerning. One reason might be the colony is preparing to swarm. That could be like a legitimate reason. And so then, yeah, oh, I'm slightly worried now because the colony is going to swarm. Or it could just be that like the days are drawing in, it's getting a little bit colder. The bees are getting ready for winter. So the queens stop laying eggs. Again, I've got loads of colonies that are on brood breaks like that. But little things like that can turn into emergencies. They can turn into worry. They can turn into, oh, I'm just going to go back in and check. And then you pull it out and you kill your queen. And you don't need to be going in and doing these checks at this time of the year. So I don't worry too much about that, whether there's eggs, whether there's not. If there's good brood, if there's good bees, and you're confident in the colony, I wouldn't worry about them stopping laying eggs. So I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna bring myself back there. I think it's nice to go on there occasionally and share. Right, what I have not got now though is my questions. Yeah, where have they gone? This is car crash. Sorry, bear with me. Um, okay, I don't know where they've gone. I could try talking at the same time. That might work. There we go. I've brought them back out of nowhere. Okay, well, I'm going to go back into some questions and do a bit of a quick fire on them and get through as many as I can whilst they're there. People can kind of still see me. Okay, sorry about this. I just want to make sure I get everyone right. Julia says, "Good morning, Lawrence. Why would a new queen lay drones at this time of the year? My new queen has laid lots of drone brood in a cluster, but also lots of worker brood. Also, can I take a frame of capped worker brood from a stronger hive to boost winter bee numbers in a different hive?" Right, so I'll answer the second part first. Yes, you can definitely take good frames of capped brood, shake the bees off. You don't want the bees on it, and you can place that into any size colony to boost it. Just bear in mind you can't go to like a 2 frame nuke of bees and put 3 frames of brood in. Um, and expect that they're going to be able to keep it warm. There needs to be enough bees in the colony that you're putting into to keep that brood warm. And the other thing I was going to say is you can do kind of like a partial shake. People spoke about this before. I'm not sure whether we're talking about that, but I do occasionally do that. If you take out a frame full of bees and you kind of shake it all off like that, so there's just brood, take that over and put that into the hive. But if you do want to boost the population of bees in the other hive as well, what you can do is you can take the frame out and just kind of like gentle shake, and you'll start to see it happening. Gentle shake will get all the older bees off, the foragers off. It leaves behind the young nurse fluffy bees, like the fluffy bees that are left on. That's probably enough bees there or thereabouts to keep that brood warm as well. But you can take a frame like that and go and introduce it into a queenless colony. You can take it and go and introduce it into a colony with another queen on, to be honest. It's not best practice, and I try to avoid it. But if your colony's really, really struggling, you can boost populations like that. Just reading the other bit there. And then, so the other bit is, yes, if you have a faulty queen, they can lay drones. If sometimes they misfire a little bit at the beginning, so if they're doing some worker brood as well, I always think, give them a chance, because a lot of the time what can happen is you might have had like a failed drone land queen, or the queen. I'm not sure the situation that you've got there, but you could have a failed drone land queen that someone's gone in and said, right, the queen's no good, I'm going to kill her. Or you go in and you think that there's a virgin. Let's say that there's a virgin in there that's not got mated, and you've gone in and killed her, and then you put a new queen in. And at that point, you see like loads of drone brood being produced and then loads of worker brood. Now, that could very easily be the virgin wasn't a virgin. She failed. She started laying some drone brood, and you have just a few drone eggs knocking around. And then you've killed her and put a new queen in. And then because of the time delay, because drone brood takes a little bit longer to develop, you don't see it quite at the same time. So then it looks like the new queen is laying drones. If it is a drone layer, like if it's one of ours that we've sent out to you and it's a drone layer, we obviously replace drone layers free of charge. It's the fact that there's worker brood there as well. Definitely give it a few weeks to bed in. I think you should be good on that one. I am hoping that everything's okay there. We're good. Okay, well, I'm going to go to the next one. Have a sip of coffee. All right, Martin. Martin says, "Morning, Lawrence. I received my 8th and final F1 Buckfast yesterday. Thank you and your team for all your help this year. Following the course, I'm sure we will do pretty well going into winter and emerge out the other side in good condition. The constant weekly newsletter is invaluable. Cheers." Oh, well, thanks, Martin. I'm trying to work out the best way of getting that information across to the right people at the right time. So it is always a work in progress, but to try and hopefully make it better. But thank you, for your note about the hard work as well. There's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes with the queens and with the customer service and with the YouTube videos. But it is like this time of year is my favorite time of year. Not because of like I like the weather or anything like that, but it's the hope. And it's strange, because when I used to work in an office job, I used to I really didn't like the short days. Very much someone who gets like affected by sad disorder, and not in a mopey way, but just in a like you end up sleeping a little bit more, you end up going to bed a little bit earlier. Like I really like long days. I like to fill my day with stuff. and get lots done. And whether that's going out and doing the bees, or going out and planting some flowers, or tidying the house, or just definitely not tidying the house. If my wife heard me saying that, when I say tidying the house, I don't mean cleaning the house. I mean just like stacking stuff up, putting it in piles and stuff. But I don't like the the short days in the winter, until I became a beekeeper, and until I had like a beekeeping company, because like summer's not summer anymore. Summer's quite difficult. Summer is a challenge. And I don't mean that in a like, oh, let's all worry about Lawrence way. It's a slog, isn't it? And I put myself in there. And if it's not what I want it to be, then there's only one person I've got to blame, and that's kind of me, because I designed this system. But I do like it. I love getting up every day, doing what I do, and I love kind of going to bed thinking, yeah, got loads done. But it's tiring. And when you do it over a very, very long period, you get to this point in the year and you see messages like Martin's message there saying, thanks for all your help this year. Like, my bees are doing well. And you go on to Hive-Q. And this was the other thing that I loved on Hive-Q, which was people saying, look how much honey I've got. Like, I can't believe how much honey I've got. I've struggled for years, didn't get any honey. And then I got Black Mountain Honey Queens and 14-day Beekeeper, and I've got way too much honey. So to combine that with the thought of not having to kind of work that many hours, and people having seen the results, it's a little bit of sit back and be like, oh, okay, whew, nice. And then knowing that the next few months are going to be nowhere near as difficult, and can fix some things that need fixing. I kind of go into this point of the year now, and I don't have SAD disorder anymore, seasonal affective disorder, or whatever it's called anymore. I really look forward to it. Like, and I think, oh, I can't wait for like bonfire night and Christmas. And I always used to look at those people who liked that, and liked the quieter time of year, and the dark and the cold and stuff, as a bit like, oh, it's a bit weird. Like, surely it's better. Long sunny days are better. And then I've realized now that both are good. Like, both are good, and I enjoy both of them, and you can take the best out of both of them. So I know I'm going, it's turned into very philosophical Lawrence on Circle, hasn't it? It's because there's not that many questions, so I feel I have to give a good answer. There we go, Martin. But I would say to you, Martin, as well, yeah, it's not just one way thanks. I would say thank you to you. You've been a brilliant customer. You've been a brilliant member within Hive-Q. You're always there doing your posts. You've shown us around your apiary, like, absolutely stunning. And you give people the chance to see beekeeping in a different way. So someone will come in next year and look at your post and be like, wow, Martin did this. I'm gonna take a leap and go ahead and do it. So thank you for all you do as well. James says, hi Lawrence, hope you and the family are well. I have 2 hives and harvested this week, and had around 20-ish frames and got 24 jars of honey. So pleased. I left another 10 to 15 frames that were not fully capped on the hive, but need to treat this week. I'm inspecting tomorrow, but if the frames are still not ready, what are my options? Say for next year, extract again. Thanks for all your help this year. So again, thank you to you, James, for your help as well, and all of your questions and engagement. It's this one here is one that, as you build your beekeeping confidence, it's less of a problem each year. Perfect example yesterday. I was out with Zane yesterday doing Mega Mix, as we call it now, which is just a video showing like the whole process from getting the honey from the hives and taking it through and getting it to the jar. We're just doing a few of them because it makes sense to do them at this point in the year when the honey is there. But it kind of answers your question, which is, you can go in and see the frames that are ready. You can see, like, on the extraction videos, on the uncapping shorts that I do, you see the frames, they're perfect, they're 100% capped. If you think all of my frames are like that, then that's not real beekeeping. They're not all like that. And the reason that I don't show like maybe the uncapped frames or the partially uncapped frames on those videos there is, I have to be careful, because imagine if I did that and then people said, oh, well, I'm just doing what Lawrence did. He showed that this frame was okay to be uncapped and put in. And it is with context, but without context, if you just got 100 frames like that, your honey will definitely ferment. So it's how far are you willing to push it, but you have to push it almost at the right time. So I'm hoping, because it's been a nice week, you'll go back to your colony and maybe you've got 10 to 15 frames in there and they're all capped over and it's all good to go. So that's one way of doing it, is leaving it on, leaving the bees to work it a little bit longer. And then before you do your treatment, going back and just taking what the bees have got and extracting all of that. So that's a good way of doing it. The other way, I'd recommend doing it this way next time, yeah, is saying, right, I'm not going to extract the top box. The box that's ready, I'm not going to extract it yet, but it's ready. So bank that. Leave it on the hive though, so just don't do anything. And then say, right, there's another box underneath that needs a little bit of help. So I'm going to maybe reconfigure some frames around all the way throughout my supers. I'm going to take I know where the bees are working the hardest. They're going to be working hardest near the brood box, but beware, moving frames there puts them in the kind of the pollen firing line. So I don't like to move things around too much down there. But I'm thinking more like the frames that are on the outer edges. Maybe like you're going to bring them into the middle, but then leave all the honey on there. So don't take off the one box that's capped and leave on the box that's not capped. Leave it all on there. And then when you come back the week after, you're going to come back and harvest everything and put your strips in. So for the bees, it's exactly the same. But the difference in doing that is that it means that you can offset the kind of blend of honey in your tank. Whereas if you do it in two separate harvests, you can't. You're going to end up with like a bucket that's a really low moisture content or a bucket that's a really high moisture content. And what you want is two buckets that are blended between the two. So you're better off. I wouldn't say you're better off. It gives you more flexibility to add in more uncapped or partially uncapped frames the bigger your batch of honey. So if you're doing it on a one super basis, you might be able to add in like one or two frames that are partially or mostly uncapped, but you're shaking them and nothing's coming out. Whereas if you're doing it on 100 frames, you can, okay, proportionally, you're still maybe only able to add in like 10 or 20%, but that should be enough to cover all of your uncapped frames from around the apiary. So you'll find that you don't have the problem, is what I'm saying. If you manage it accordingly, you time it well, and you're happy to take just a little bit more risk, then it works fine. The other one, though, and this is the one that a lot of people miss, and this is the one that maybe would have just saved me all of that preamble, hey, is you can just take them all off and stack them up in your honey extraction room, like obviously a sealed environment where nothing's going to get in and rob them. But don't put the supers just kind of like stack on top of each other, crisscross them so a bit of air can get in. And just run a really heavy dehumidifier in the room, and all it will do is it will just suck the moisture out of the air, and then the honey naturally just kind of like dissipates its moisture into the really dry air. It's like exactly how it works. I did this once with heather honey that was showing at about 23%, which is a bit high for heather honey. And then I did it for a day and it got it down to 16%. Some of it was around 15%, and it was too low moisture content. I couldn't get it out of the frames. Nightmare. Did to loads of it. It's very, very effective. And all you end up with there is, imagine a frame. You take out a frame, it's completely uncapped, and you go to shake it and nothing comes out. You think, that's honey. Just got to wait for them to cap it. And if you tested it, it might be 23, 24, 25%. Probably not that high. Test some uncapped honey, or you'll find it's like 20, 21%, which is kind of okay for honey. But if you take that honey, I've forgotten where I'm going. There we go. I have to wear my hat when I do that. I've taken my hat away. I've gone again. But anyway, if you take that honey and test it and compare it to like normal honey, then the differential is not going to be that much. But if you put it into, I remember where I'm going now. If you put it into a room with a dehumidifier on it, it will take it down to 15, 16, 70% pretty much overnight. So it fixes the problem in a completely different way. You take the honey off when it's not ready and then get it ready by putting it in a dehumidified room, as opposed to getting the bees to do it. So a couple of ways of doing that. I don't bother with dehumidifiers anymore, though, because unless like you're forcing the bees, I think that you're forcing something. Something's not quite right. Just take the majority of the honey off when it's ready, and then any outlier boxes like that, you can either just chuck them in and hope for the best and say, right, I'll test it all at the end, and the moisture content should be fine. Or you can go down the route of saying, right, I'll test a batch of it, and then I'll try and reduce the moisture content down on any bits where I know it's going to be high. Neil says, thank you, Lawrence and team. I recently completed my basic and my wife did her honeybee health. We spent a lot of time on 14-Day Beekeeper. Very useful resource. Thank you very much, Neil. Glad it went well, and I hope you both passed. I'm sure you did. Jeff says, hi, Lawrence. What are your thoughts on trickling versus vaporizing oxalic acid other than the time taken? Only have 4 hives, so a vaporizer, Only have 4 hives, so a vaporizer feels like overkill, but would it do a more effective treatment? It's a great question, that one. And I am guilty of getting too excited about things, like I always do. Someone shows me a £5,000 extractor. I'm like, it's like £5,000 extractor. Wow, love it. And the same with an oxalic acid sublimation device. You look at it, you're like, oh, it's cool, isn't it? £400 worth of cool. Do you need it? No. Simple as that. You don't need one. There's tons of ways to treat your bees for varroa to ensure that the varroa load is kept at an acceptable level at all times. Like that's what you're trying to achieve there. And there's so many different ways of doing it, so many tried and tested recipes and formulas and formulations and chemicals and management practices. That there's a lot to go at. One of them is using an organic chemical called oxalic acid and sublimating it during a broodless period to target the phoretic mites, the mites that live on the back of the bees, not underneath the brood, during a broodless period, to kill as many of them as you can to reduce the varroa load. Like it's niche within a targeted area. So no, you don't. There's loads of other ways of doing it. You could just say, right, I'm not going to use oxalic acid. I'm going to trap my bees, or trap the queen and force a brood break, and just do that, force a brood break, and that will just have a natural effect. You could take out drone brood. I don't like recommending taking out drone brood because I don't recommend it and I don't like doing it. But you could do that. That will give you a natural reduction in the amount of varroa in the colony because they prefer the big, chubby, older drone brood. Again, is that more effective than sublimating with oxalic acid? Probably not, but it's a different way of going about it. So all I'm saying is just like you've got to work out for you, Jeff, which one of those like plethora of treatments is most suitable for you. The specific example that you've got there, though, like trickling versus vaporizing, and I'd add another one in there as well because it's not the same and it's not licensed, and I don't know where you are in the world, so I can kind of like talk openly about unlicensed treatments so long as you're using like the licensed equivalent. Um, the example of that is I can talk about oxalic acid, saying, well, in the UK, you need to use Varoxol because that's the only one that's licensed to be used. But trickling versus sublimation is just two ways of dosing that oxalic acid. Comes in like a white powder form, and sublimation is turning it from a solid to a gaseous form instantly, and then that coats the bees, and you just fire it in, and it coats all of the bees and all the mites, and kind of like burns their feet, and they fall off. And then the other way of doing it is you make it up into a sugar syrup. So you take the powder, you mix it up into a sugar syrup, and then you get like a dosing tool, or you can just get a squeezy bottle, and you just dribble it over the bees, 5 milliliters per seam or whatever it is on the dosing thing. And you're just trying to get a decent amount all the way up and down each stream like that. The other one, there's another one in there as well that's a really, really good method that in some countries you're able to use, which is you take that dribble, that same dribble, so it's just sugar syrup with oxalic acid mixed in at the right dose, and you impregnate towels, like little jiffy cloth towels with it, and then you just hang them over the top of the frames. Now, I would say that at the right time of year, because you can use that as like a summer treatment as well, it is a very, very effective method of getting oxalic acid into the colony, maybe without the shock of trickling. That's all I would say. The downsides of trickling are you're just kind of soaking the colony with sugar syrup at a cold point in the year. But I wouldn't dwell too much on that. I really wouldn't. Like when I've dribbled loads of colonies. I used to dribble oxalic acid for a couple of years before I sublimated it. And it's so warm inside the beehive at that time of year. It's a nice, big, warm, insulated polybox, like it is for us. And you go in, and it's winter, and it's like 2 degrees. Come on, it's not that cold in winter, really not. Even when it's down to -10, you go into the beehive, and it's warm. So going in, opening it up, all the heat comes out. You drizzle it with sugar syrup, and you put the box back on, the feeder back on, and the bees are probably like, "Oh, what have you done that for? That's not good. We don't like that." And then 10 minutes later, they're just back to clustered, like, okay, yeah, we're good again. Because it's so warm. There's so many bees. They generate so much heat that they can take a little bit of dribbling like that. So I would say if you're a backyard beekeeper, a back garden beekeeper, up to anything up to like 10 hives, let's say, because that covers a lot of people, you don't need an instant vac. You don't need a sublimox. You really don't need those things. You just know dribble or trickle or use the towels or just use Apivar and go with kind of like maybe forcing a broodless break in the winter and doing a trickle or something like that. There's loads of options there for you. You definitely do not need to go down the route of an instant vat. However, you know there was a however coming. I really like the instant vat. I do. If you're going to get one, get the instant vat. Get the best one they've got. It's so powerful. So much better than the Sublimox. It's so much better than the gas vat. It's just, it does the job, and it does the job really, really well, repeatedly, like again and again and again, and never fails. You just kind of load it up with a battery, put the oxalic acid in, fire it out into the colony, you just move on again and again and again. If you do go down that route, make sure you get your PPE in place as well. You need the right PPE when you're dealing with oxalic acid. all forms of oxalic acid, but especially when you're sublimating it. Okay, sip of coffee. There we go. I am enjoying the longer format, I have to say. I'm like, not as many questions, more coffee. Yeah, that's the system. Julia says, hi again. Please can you talk through a double brood system over winter? I have a brood box full of honey on both hives from the demeray and planned on leaving it on for the bees over winter. So I'm in the process of doing another. I don't want to call it a lead magnet. Doing another brilliant descriptive PDF on the double brood system, and I'm enjoying it, yeah, because it's kind of challenging my beekeeping management and my practices. Not so much to kind of say, oh, you could improve them. Everyone's management practices can be improved, can't they? But to document them, because I just done things, and just you work out what works and you say, oh, I can do this, or oh yeah, well I won't do this on that one, but I will do it on this one. And it just all lives in your head. And then 14-day beekeeper was as a result of me saying, I just want to try and get some of this down, because I think it's good, useful advice. Like, I wish I could get access to what was in my head when I started beekeeping. It would save me a lot of time. So that was 14-day beekeeper, trying to do all of that. And it was a lot that came out, a lot of waffle as well. But things like this, like double brood versus single brood, or what do you do like post demeray? It's forcing me to say, well, okay, what do I do? What's my system? How does it work? And I've come to the realization now that there is a really, really nice system when it comes to double brooding, single brooding, the demeray, spring, winter, like the compression. It all ties in quite nicely. I've not fully developed it yet, is the problem. So I'll give you the rough take on it at the moment. So in spring, if you go into winter on double brood now, in spring, the likelihood is you're going to end up with two brood boxes. Of course you are. You're going to have your brood box at the bottom, your brood box on the top. You would have started off winter with the bees and the brood at the bottom and the honey at the top, like that. The bees will just work up over winter. They'll leave vacant space underneath, and they will just work up to the top. So the likelihood is you'll come in the spring, and the bees will just be in the top box. You can just remove the bottom box completely. Remember that, because that's where we come back to in a little bit. So you then go ahead, you put your queen excluder on, and you start putting your supers on, trying to get a nice early spring crop. At this point, once you've got two supers on, you want to go ahead and do your demeray split. And I've realized that you have to get that first demeray in. If you want a big, strong colony of bees and a big bumper honey crop, you have to get that demeray in before the bees swarm. The difference is maybe a 60-pound hive and a 160-pound hive. Like, that's the difference between getting the demeray in and not doing the demeray. Now, you keep on going through the spring, and you end up with a beehive that looks a bit like this come the end of spring. You have a brood box at the bottom, hopefully 4 supers, let's say, of honey, and then a brood box at the top full to the brim with honey. Possibly that you can't get access to, though. If it's been treated with apivar, that top box it's not honey for human consumption, fine for the bees, though. So you just have to bear that in mind. Then during the June gap, that's what comes after you take off the spring. So say we're onto the June gap now, and you want to take off your spring crop. So you take off the 4 supers, and then this is the bit where I'm not 100% sure whether the demeray top box goes underneath or whether it goes on top. It kind of doesn't matter, I guess. So all you do during the June gap is this. You've got your brood box, your 4 supers, and another brood box full of honey up there. You just take your 4 supers away, and you condense it down to brood box full of bees, brood box full of honey. That's fine for the June gap. The bees just sit there really in the June gap, not doing a huge amount of anything. So you just leave them in that position. If you come back at that point and say, there's nowhere near enough space for the bees there, like they need more space, then okay, you just go straight back in and put another couple of supers in and manage the bees that way. So have brood box, couple of supers, brood box, and just get them through the June gap. Then going through the summer, this is where I confused myself on it previously, but going through the summer, you could do another demeray if you want. But I would only do another demeray on that colony if it means that the next box that you can lift up becomes a honey box. Don't put 2 brood boxes at the top that you can't harvest honey from, which basically saying it's going to be 80 pounds of honey in there and you can't touch it. It's a waste for you. So I would say at this point in the year, you manage your bees on a single brood box. So single brood, queen excluder here, you've got your 4 supers, and you've got another top box there. And as you go through the summer, sorry, it starts off at 2, but 2 supers, 4 supers, 6 supers. As the bees need more space, you just keep on adding the supers in. Always keep that top honey box right at the top, though, out of the way. Then come this time of the year, Julia asked a question saying, "Hi, please can you talk me through a double brood system over winter? I have a brood box full of honey on both hives from the demo array and planned on leaving it for the bees over winter. What do I do?" You do exactly what you did in the spring, which is you've got your brood box, your queen excluder, all of your supers and your top box there. You take away your honey, you take away the queen excluder, you just compress them down. You've got brood box full of bees, brood box full of honey, like perfect winter configuration. Take the brood box off the top for a minute, get your apivar strips in. Going to get the apivar strips at the bottom box into the brood. Really, really important that you do that. Don't just come to the top box and stick them in the honey because the bees are like, yeah, not going up there. Just leave them. Get them into the brood, close them up, put your feeder on just in case, but double brood almost certainly not going to need to be fed, but that's kind of just up to you to manage. I would get them in the habit of taking a little bit of that feed down. So get the feeder on, give them half a litre, dribble a little bit down, make sure they know where it is, and then it's set up for when you need it later. And then go and have a cup of tea or have a sip of coffee and sit there and just think, the beekeeping season is over. And within a few weeks, you'll be like, beekeeping season's over. I'm a bit gutted. It's now 9 months until it starts again, or whatever ridiculously long time it is. Leanne says, is it too late to do a queen trapping varroa treatment? I haven't extracted my honey yet, but we'll do it next week. I'm a new beekeeper this year. It's not too late. No, you could do that now, but it's going to have a huge impact on the production of winter bees and adds a massive amount of risk in terms of like finding and caging and releasing queens. I wouldn't recommend it. I would save that for the summer when you've got a little bit more flexibility if things go wrong. Ellie Sean says, I have lost a queen. The hive created queen cells, knocked down to a really nice one and left them to it. Hoping to go back in probably early September and see new queen and eggs, etc. Is it too late to create a strong single brood colony to get through winter? And if anything I can do to help them build up and help them stay warm and strong through the winter. So the biggest area that you can influence there is the colony queen right. The quicker you can get them queen right, the quicker you can get the queen laying new eggs and building up those numbers, the better chance you're going to get through going through winter. Things like keeping them warm and feeding them and making sure that the condensation's forming in the right part of the beehive, they're all really important, but unless and the wasps are coming in, you need them growing and expanding, then you'll struggle to get them through winter. So just focus on that. Make sure that virgin's gone out and got mated. Make sure that there's eggs. Make sure those eggs are turned into a capped worker brood. As soon as you see capped worker brood, that's fine. Don't worry about seeing the queen or marking the queen or doing anything like that. I would also go in and use this period to treat for mites as well, because whilst they're broodless, you might as well get the apivar in and it will give you a good knockdown. Ian says, morning Lawrence, lost count of all the number of queens I've bought this year. All are fine. I also run the branch training apiary and encourage the students to join 14-Day Beekeeper. Those that do become really good informed beekeepers and a real joy to teach. Thank you. Such a good all-round education advice queen service. Big fan. I kind of like gushing a little bit because it's so nice to hear things like that, Ian, and to feel like that you're there educating other beekeepers and like forwarding them to 14-Day Beekeeper to help them build their knowledge. And I say that's what it's all about. You can't learn beekeeping on the computer. Like you can watch 14-Day Beekeeper and you can kind of understand the basics and you preempt a lot of questions and you'll get this really good all-round understanding of beekeeping. But you might go into your first beehive and be like, oh my God, I'm not doing that again. That was really scary. That was definitely not for me. So there's a combination, and I think the combination of local associations, welcoming associations that want beekeepers to get the best out of their bees, that don't necessarily have kind of other agendas other than that are just going to help people with their bees, combined with courses like 14-Day Beekeeper, and then combined with the online community that is Hive-Q, I think that's the future. So you might think like, I think the future is all online. I don't. I think it's that hybrid, because you can get lost a bit online. Online can become the lonely place as well. And the perfect example of that is meeting all of the people that I met up at the Abello Open Day. Like the amount of people that came up to me and said, oh, hi, I'm Mark, or hi, I'm Darren, and I'm a Hive-Q member. And I'm like, oh, no, I know who you are. Don't worry, we're friends. It's really, really nice. And obviously people come up and say nice things, but it's that human interaction, like that physical interaction. That's what I want to use Hive-Q for. I want to bring people together. And yeah, it's just nice because I don't want anyone to ever think that like Hive-Q is a replacement for a local association. Definitely not. Local associations is where the fun is at if you get a nice one. And it's the sharing of knowledge, but it's the sharing of time as well, and just kind of going there and contributing and being a part of something. And I see it up at the forest. It's you can build something quite nice over a long time. And that's what associations do. But don't underestimate just saying to everyone here, don't underestimate if you're a beginner or like thinking about beekeeping, like go and join your local association, go and give them a try and go and see if you can engage on like a positive level, because obviously Ian's association's got that pretty much perfect, and it would be nice to see more of those kind of cropping up all over the place. Dave and Ella say, morning Lawrence, would all the smoke around from wildfires affect the bees and honey harvest? We are 500 meters up in the Cambrian mountains and smoke settles overnight in our valley. We are planning on harvesting this week. Thank you, and have some coffee. Well, I will have a quick sip of coffee first. Thank you very much. I would say no. It's not something that you need to worry about in terms of honey harvest. There's not a huge amount that you could really do. And all that's going to be happening is a very light amount of smoke might be drifting through the hives. And it is a really light amount of smoke. Compare that to some beekeepers who've got their smoker lit during honey harvest, and they're just like puffing the bees down because that's what they heard was good. And then they have like smoky honey. So the smokers shouldn't be anywhere near honey harvest like that. But I don't think the light smoke that's coming in is going to have any impact on that whatsoever. Obviously, the more important thing to say here, though, is be really, really careful with your smokers. You would have seen a couple of videos of me doing smokers. I stopped doing smokers all the way through the dry period, but we got some rain, so it's the risk of fire for us isn't that much. Like it's a bit drizzly outside this morning. You go outside and it's wet underfoot, so it's not the same as it is elsewhere. But I would advise most people to say 99% of the jobs that you need the smoker for, you can do without the smoker. There are some jobs that you can't do without the smoker. So you have to question, do I need to do that job now, or can I do it when there's been some rain? And if you really do need to do it now, take every single precaution. I would challenge the need to light a smoker if you're in a dry area. I don't think anyone should be lighting smokers. There's lots of alternative kind of smoke or heat-free smokers that are available out there, and I think there'll be a surge in people buying them. But no, Dave and Ella, I would not worry. And thanks for coming. You're here every single live stream. It's nice that you come and contribute. John says, just wanted to thank the Hive-Q community and yourself yesterday for support following my discovery yesterday of 2 hives being stolen. Oh, I felt sick yesterday morning when I arrived in our fairly remote spot on Dartmoor. We will rebuild for next year with the support of the lovely bee community. I'm so sorry to hear it, John. Like I know what it's like to have something stolen. It's not nice. We had so I used to live in Birmingham, and I woke up in the middle of the night, sleeping with my wife in the middle of the room. Woke up, was like, "There's someone in our house," and she said, "No, there's no one there." And I said, "I'm pretty sure there's someone in our house," and she said, "No." So we went back to sleep. And then we woke up in the morning and we'd been robbed, and they stole our car, and they stole all my camera equipment, like every single thing, laptop, like cleaned us out. And I said, I knew it. I knew there was someone in the house. And then we were working it out. We were thinking, like, where have they got? We had two cars at the time, 2 company cars, and they'd stolen Helen's company car. We were a bit confused why they'd stolen Helen's company car, because like I was all like well cool as a 24-year-old with my black BMW 3 Series that I thought was really cool. It was quite cool. It's another story entirely. I'll see if I can get back to the stealing one in between. The BMW one was, I learned to drive when I was like 23, 24. Got my first ever company car, was the first ever car that I ever drove. It was a 3 Series automatic, drove it off the forecourt, because that's what happens with company cars. And drove this automatic BMW off the forecourt. And he said, you know how to drive? Like you don't need me to show you around? And I was like, come on, 24-year-old now, yeah, kind of know how to drive a BMW. So anyway, it turns out I didn't know how to drive the BMW, and because I was used to driving a manual, so I was hitting the accelerator and hitting the brake at the same time and stalling this brand new 3 Series in front of the entire showroom, who were wetting themselves. And it was quite a scary drive home. Like I didn't have much of a clue what was going on. But they didn't steal this 3 Series. So we were confused, because it's like a brand new shiny 3 Series on the drive, and they stole Helen's Golf. And it's like the trauma coming back. The reason they didn't steal it was because we worked out that my keys were somewhere where they wouldn't have found them.
And I said, well, where were your keys? And she said, they were at the end of the bed. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, they're at the end of the bed. So we worked out in the end that when I went bolt upright, it was because there was like a robber in my room or just like on the landing. Oh, so it wasn't good. There's a nice ending to that story though, yeah, because what happened was we called the police and we said, we've been robbed. And they came around and said, okay, yeah, you've definitely been robbed. Like, change the locks, Like, we knew we weren't getting anything back. Like, we knew we weren't going to get anything back because no one ever gets anything back from robberies. And then at about 12 o'clock, they rung us up. I had a call from the police, and I was thinking, oh, they're gonna want some evidence or something like that. And they said, yeah, can you just go through the list of the things that were stolen? Like, we got the car, we know that, but just like, well, what else was stolen? And I remember I was like, oh, well, it's like an Olympus OM1, like micro four thirds camera and like a 24 to 105 mil f4 lens. Like, I remember the details. And he said, right, okay. He said, right, are you at home? I said, yeah. He said, right, stay at home, be there 10 minutes. And they came back, yeah, they didn't know the stuff. They came back there with some pictures. They said, is this your stuff? And I was like, yeah. He said, we caught the guy. He said, we caught the guy. And he said, you'll never believe how we caught him as well. Because what happened was there was a helicopter in the air. Yeah. So what had happened? They'd gone out, they'd stolen our car, parked it up somewhere, downloaded, done whatever they'd done. They'd gone out and stolen another car, really like nice Audi they'd stolen. And they'd got into a police helicopter chase. So they're driving through the streets of Birmingham, helicopters got them. And whether they knew they were being tracked by the helicopters or not, I don't think they did, but they crashed the car and then they arrested like the guy that was driving. And the guy who wasn't driving had got out and like ran back, not knowing that the helicopter was still tracking him. And he's just gone into this house and gone to bed. And the police had just rocked up and said, right, mate, what's going on? He's like, oh, just asleep. And they're like, yeah, but BS, you've been asleep. We're coming in, came in and found every single thing that was there. They got our car, they got all of the camera equipment back. And I remember them coming back and he said, you don't know how lucky you are. It never, ever happens like that. We never recover any goods, especially the expensive ones, and never so quickly. So I know I say all of that, and like you've not got yours back because someone's come in and they've stolen your beehives, and that feeling of like someone stealing something that's yours, that you put your time and your effort and like your love and your care into, and them just taking it and thinking that it's theirs. Like it makes me so angry, John. And what makes me more angry than anything, yeah, they know the time of year to do it. Like it's almost certainly beekeepers, because who if you're going to steal a hive for maximum gain, when are you going to steal it? You're going to steal it now and take all the honey off it as well. So it made me very angry. And I saw the lovely gesture that Darren made. We'll just go on to like story time, isn't it? The gesture that Darren made. So Darren came and bought a Langstroth nuke for me this year, and I told him to come and collect it on the day that I thought was suitable, and I got it wrong. So he came up and I only had national nukes, and I felt really, really bad because we'd kind of made special plans and communications and stuff for it. And I said, Darren, I'm so sorry. Like I can see what's happened here now. Like I've not got your Langstroth nuke here. And I'm thinking around thinking, is there one that I can go and get? And there wasn't. And Darren was like, oh, no worries. We'll come back and just grab it another time. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You've driven up from Worcester for nothing. Like, would you like a national nuke? I can give you a national nuke, and like you can do what you want with it. And I'll give you a Langstroth nuke as well. Like you can just have an extra nuke because I feel so bad. And Darren was like, you sure? And I said, yeah, of course. Like, definitely, of course. So Darren took that nuke, built a lovely little series of photos about how he's changed that into a national, which is like great education for everyone on Hive-Q. And all of that will be coming together soon. And then he doesn't want this colony now because it's on nationals, and he's moved it over to Langstroth, and so he's got like a national colony. He's just thinking, what am I going to do with this national colony? And he's offered it to John. And if we can get that working together, it will make my day, because that is what it's all about. It's not about selling courses or selling community and doing stuff like that. It's bringing people together, like nice people who want to help each other, people who want to support each other, into a place that like you can feel safe doing that, and that you've got someone who wants that. Like, that's what I want. This is perfect material for Hive-Q. So I look on that, and I look on these comments, and I just think, yeah, we've got a great bunch of people here. So thank you, everyone. Jim says, morning, Lawrence. Oh, so sorry, I should say on that one as well. We said, John, and it was a genuine offer. When you get built back up, give me a shout and we'll sort you some queens to get your numbers back up. Jim says, morning, Lawrence. Managed to get up to 11 hives this year, having to start again from one hive following my thefts. Just wanted to thank you for all of the help enabling this to happen. I now have a complete reset with Black Mountain Honey Queens. I still managed to get 14 supers as well. It's just good news after good news, isn't it? So Jim was also someone who suffered from quite a significant theft earlier this year and has managed to get up to 11 hives. Jim, that is brilliant news. And still get 14 supers. So you've not only smashed it, like you've taken it to the next level. I hope everyone who has suffered from thefts kind of gets over it, because it's not a nice thing, and doesn't have to experience it again. And I just hope people stop stealing beehives. Is the long-term vision. Gillian says, morning, love my underfloor entrances, but do they work with vaporizing, and is there any way to monitor mite drop? Feel like Hive-Q have been holding my hand and encouraging me this week. I was dreading clearing bees from supers prior to extracting. They got me through it. Yes, that is what it's all about. It's scary, isn't it, Gillian? It is. Like, I get like this, and I've been doing this all week. I've been thinking, I need to extract my honey, but before I do that, I need to take the honey off, and I need to put my varroa strips in. But I don't want to do it before Zane films it, because once I've done it, it's done and I can't film it. So I'm like waiting for different zones to be released. And it's in my head. I'm like, I'm dreading this a bit now, because I want to make sure that everything's all organized and loads of bees there. And there are a couple of colonies that are like 4 or 5 supers, and they're not the friendliest bees. Like most of my bees are friendly, and I go into the friendly ones. And then some of them where I'm just like, right, they need to be requeened, but I've not got around to it yet. But they've got lots of honey on them. I've got to go in and get the honey off them. So I'm thinking, I don't want to go into that colony, because I know I'd have to put the proper full bee suit on. It's going to be hot. I'm going to blow them out. They're going to be all over me, but I got to do it. And sometimes you need a little push, don't you? You need a little, come on, get out there and do it. And Zane gives me that push. Zane's brilliant for that. And there's nothing better than getting the push, going out there, doing it, and being like, yes, and people celebrating it with you. So well done for clearing the bees. For the underfloor entrances, my model is quite a simplistic model for my needs, really. So I don't monitor for varroa mites, like using the board like that. In terms of having a board that will go in, I just put it on a board. So if I wanted to monitor for varroa, I'd lift the whole hive up, just put a bit of Corex underneath, and just lift the whole hive off. Appreciate that's not for everyone. You'll see though, tons of people have modified the underfloor entrance. So the underfloor entrance I got from the beekeeping forum years ago. So definitely not my design. I just borrowed it from someone. Really nice design. And I've done a couple of modifications, but I really go back to the simple method, which was the original design that I was given. But many people have taken that on and advanced it. So if you wanted to, like, you can modify the back. You can put like runners in on the back, so you can get a board in. And then you can potentially put a spout in. I was looking at this, putting like a little copper spout in and blasting oxalic acid through it. But in the test that I did, it's hard to get it to work because it condenses on the pipe. So I don't blast oxalic acid through the bottom anymore. I go from the top. So I'll go through. My method for doing it is I'll go in, take the roof off. Like I can hear the sounds, crack the polyasphalt feeder off, so that comes off. And then I put an eek on top, and then I fire in through the eek. And that way you sublimate from the top. And when it condenses, you imagine like a gas. When it condenses and goes to solid, it doesn't become heavier, but like the bits drop downwards due to gravity. Definitely doesn't become heavier. Physics to bloody physics A level. But doing it from the top means that you get much better dispersion through the nuke as opposed to doing it from the bottom anyway. So when I knew that, I thought, well, I'm not going to modify the floor to do it from the bottom because it's inferior. Although you don't have to open your beehives, I see that as a necessary kind of evil to get sublimation in from the top going down. So I sublimate from the top with eek. John says, I always warm the solution before trickling so it's not a shock to the colony. Yes, always warm the solution. But still, it's still a bit wet. Do you know, like in the middle of winter, if someone comes and pours like lukewarm water over you, within a few minutes, you'll be like, oh, do that for it's cold. But good shout, John. Andrew says, morning, Lawrence. I hope you and your family are well. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Firstly, I took all my supers off yesterday, and my second had extractor. And my second had extractor decided to pack in on the first spin. Sorry, I read that a bit wrong. How long would the frames be okay whilst I source a new extractor? So the honey will have cooled to a point now, like overnight. It reaches the temperature that it would reach in a week overnight. So you kind of reached a point where the honey's not warm anymore. It's not going to be easy to extract in its current state. So there's no real rush. All of it says keep it in the warmest environment possible, keep it protected, keep it sealed up, upturned roof and a roof on top, ratcheted down, best place to keep it. And then try extracting it straight away. It should be fine because it stays liquid for a long time, even though it'll be more viscous. If not, you're going to have to work out a way of warming it back up a little bit. And good luck getting a new extractor. And then second one, you say, could you recommend one? I have 7 hives and don't plan to expand much. Secondly, I have a hive that I have recently tried to add a new Black Mountain Honey Queen to. I can't see her or any brood. Is it too late to add another? Okay, so the recommendation for the extractor. I actually, it depends whether you want a manual or an electric one. I'm halfway through a bit of an experiment at the moment. So on the Abello Open Day, as I say, Abello Lyson and Abello gave me their 12-frame manual basic extractor, just to like a little play with and do some tests. So I've been extracting out of that. It's a really good extractor. It is a nice extractor. It is manual though, so it's just like, oh, this takes forever. But it's got lovely gearing. Like it's nice. You're about this speed on the extraction, and it is flying down there. But what I liked about that one was they also have like an electric unit, like a bolt-on. So you just screw the top bit off and just put this electric unit on the top, plug it in, and it converts it to an electric extractor. And I think that's really nice. I think that would tick the box for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people would buy a 12-frame manual basic extractor and stay there for quite a long time, potentially forever. But to have the option just to kind of put the module on and turn it into an electric extractor. And I don't think the module's that much more. I think it's like £200 or £300, maybe something like that. It's obviously a decent chunk of money, but it's not thousands of pounds. It's a nice upgrade. It takes you from kind of one product, which is like a decent sized manual, to an electric manual for a little bit more. It gives you that pathway as opposed to saying, right, Andrew, you should go straight in and buy a 20-frame radial electric extractor, because maybe you don't need that. And if you're on 7 hives, you're kind of in between. Some people would not get on with a manual extractor. Some people quite like being in the honey extraction room on their own. It's taking hours. No, I'm not watching the test match. No, definitely not. Oh, it's got another wicket. So it's kind of down to you what you want and who you need to get away from. We'll leave it at that. There we go. David Nella says, we bought the Hive Keeper's Micro Honey Harvester and Thorn's BS cassette shallow frames for some fun next year. We were thinking of adding 1 or 2 per super, but they are self-spacing and don't fit in Simon G's castellations. Any tips for setting the cassette frames up, distribution across supers, and encouraging the bees to use them? Many thanks for sharing all your experiences. So, good question. And I've got the same frame, so they don't fit in the castellations. I would say path of least resistance here is to cut the lugs with a suitable tool. Take your time over this to fit in the castellations. Could be the easiest way of doing it. I've actually put some in. I've got some castellations that fit into them, and I've put some in, and they just expand the honey out. So it doesn't matter that the spacing isn't quite right or the spacing is a little bit too much. They do set them up to protrude, and they look quite cool. That's going to be the easiest way of doing it by far, is just cut them down. The other way of doing it is cut your castellations, but I wouldn't cut Simon's amazing castellations. You don't want to do that, but you could just put like castellations for 7 frames and then leave a couple of frames just on the normal ones, and it would just sit on the runners. So a couple of different ways of doing it. I'm just trying to think the other way. There is another way. You could buy a cage. So yeah, this is a good way of doing it. So you could buy like a queen introduction cage, a cage where the queen can't get in and lay, and you could put it in a brood box. That is an alternative way of doing it, and actually work really well doing that. You might get some rogue comb underneath, but it means that you wouldn't have to do it in a super. They are very good fun, I have to say. And if anyone wants to hear my winter project, I'm not going to give it away. Actually, no, I'm not going to give it away. There we go. Keep it a secret. Give too much stuff away. I've realised, so because I get so excited about things, because I'm like a 6-year-old stuck inside a very miserable 40-year-old's body, but because I get so excited about things, I've realised that I announce stuff before it happens. So I'll get excited about something and be like, oh, we're going to do this, and then, oh, that's quite a lot of hard work, but okay, we'll do it because we said we're going to do it, as opposed to just doing stuff. So I was going to tell you something there, but I'm not going to tell you it because it'll be better just to do the video and show everyone. And I don't want people stealing my ideas. Simon G already has way too many good ideas, so he doesn't need any more. Simon, you could do this one. It'd be good. Right. Audio lost. Hopefully it wasn't for that long. I've just got up to the audio lost bit. No sound, no sound. Right. This is what's good though. Oh, Neil Phillips saying, is there no admin who can contact him? He'll be gutted. It's like, no, it's just me. But I did see that something was coming up. I think people started raising their hands, and then it was like, oh, someone else has raised their hand. Okay, there's a lot of hand action going on here. I think the audio is definitely broken. Yeah, where is Zane when you need him? Unfortunately, Zane does not work Saturday. Zane, bless Zane, he is off for another adventure this weekend, and he's really excited about it. So he is off. He's probably out there now, on a river somewhere in Wrexham, going wild. Oh, okay. So people have been sending me message, and I have realised, yeah, thanks. Right, we're getting back to it now. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I do need a green room operator. Okay. Okay. So I think that's most of the questions done there. Everyone's deleted their comments. Right, so Neil says, Lawrence, the sound may have been off when you answered my question. Wet and uncapped frames, can I cling film them for storage, or do I run the risk of fermentation on the uncapped? So fermentation in frames over winter is not the end of the world. What you don't want is you don't want to come back to a wax mothy mold mess. So they're the two things really that you need to focus on. Bit of fermentation, you'll find you'll come back and it smells a bit fermenty. Bees will clean all of that out. The process that I use now, so I'm slap bang in the middle of the process now. I went and did loads of honey extraction yesterday. So I went, took my supers off, I blew the bees out, I took them in for extraction, I uncapped, I spun all the honey out, I put the uncapped frames back into the same boxes that they came in, upturned roof on the floor, first super goes in, second super goes in, I stack them 4 high. If I've got the crown boards, I put a crown board on the top and then the roof. If not, I just put the roof straight on, and then I get good ratchet straps and I strap them right up. I take them, I go and put them in my honey, what's it called? My honey like storage room. It's not a honey storage room, basically a container. I'm going to put them in a container with no ventilation or no nothing. Yeah. The reason that I go and put them there is because at this time of the year, they are very much a robbing risk. Yeah. I've done a visual check on the outside of those stacks of boxes to make sure that nothing can get in. But at this time of the year, it's a robbing risk. There's other risks associated with them as well, but it's the robbing risk that I need to manage at the moment. So they go into a big container that is sealed. No bees can get in. I know that it is bee proof, definitely bee proof. It's not air proof, yeah. So it's gonna have poor ventilation, and although nothing can get in, no wasps can get in, no robbing bees can get in, kind of doesn't address the fact of what's already in there, which is wax moth. There's going to be wax moth in there. There's probably going to be some eggs. There's going to be some larvae. So I have to deal with wax moth at a later date. So my system is this: put them all into that unit, like strap everything down. They're in there for maybe like 4 to 6 weeks. During that point, I'm not that fussed. There's going to be a bit of pollen in there. There's going to be a bit of fermenting honey. There might be a little bit of mold. It's really not that bad. After I get through like the robbing period, get into like back end of September when it's cold, like it's starting to drop down. You feel it in the morning. You see the dew. And at that point, I say, okay, well, the robbing's not really an issue now. If I take these boxes out and just leave them outside, then I'm going to expose them to the cold. And it's the exposure to the cold that fixes what's inside the box. So we need to get like a nice, hard, sharp frost into these boxes. And I do that by taking them outside and leaving them out in the cold, like for the whole of winter. But what you do then is you bring in like moisture issues. So if you just left them outside, then they're just going to get rained on. And you've got an upturned roof as well, so it will collect water. So you can't do that. So what you need to do then is find a nice place where you can keep your frames, where you're going to keep the rain off them, but they're exposed to the cold over winter. So I've got like a roof, just like a shelter, and I stack them under there. Make sure that no mice can get in, make sure the boxes are completely sealed, make sure there's no gaps, and then I leave them out over winter. And that's it, that's my system. You occasionally find a little bit of wax moth, like 1 or 2% wax moth, let's say. You occasionally find a little bit of moldy pollen. You occasionally find a little bit of fermentation. But after a couple of weeks of putting those boxes back on the hive, remember they've been stored wet, they're sticky, they're still like all nice, even if they are a bit moldy, a bit of fermentation going on. You put them back on the hive and the bees will sort it out. Now, that doesn't mean if you go back and there's mold everywhere, you're like, oh, the bees will sort that out. I'm talking about really isolated bits of mold here. So maybe there's a bit of bee bread, a bit of pollen in there that's got a bit of flaky mold on it. I would just take that, just chuck it away and put the frame back in. If you're seeing like widespread dots and mold and spores and whatever, then no, you can't be doing that. Something's gone wrong. So cling film is to stop things getting in. So if you're going to cling film something up and like go to town and cling film it all around and take the time and then not go ahead and freeze it, there's no point doing it, because the thing's already in there. It's just like you're cling filming it in and almost giving it like the perfect environment to multiply for a little bit. Whereas just not cling filming it and freezing it is probably a much better solution. So I understand as well, my way of doing it, that's not going to be suitable for everyone. Best place to store them, yeah, walk-in freezer. There you go. If you've got a walk-in freezer anywhere, just stack all your boxes in there. That is perfect place. But then the beginner version of that, I don't have a walk-in freezer, so I'm in beginner territory as well. But the beginner version of that is to just put the box of frames in a freezer, like for 24 hours, just bring it up to freezing temperature and then go and leave them out. So you don't need to be in an environment that has a freezing temperature. You just need to, before you cling film or before you stack them up and store them for winter, you need to have a freeze treatment, or at least know that you're going to have a freeze treatment at some point over winter. And then you don't need to worry about the cling film because you're dealing with what's inside. And then you don't need to worry about too much about the fermentation. I would say just as long as you're spinning all of the frames out and not storing uncapped nectar in there, you wouldn't have to worry about fermentation at all. Thomas says, morning, Lawrence. I'm thinking of doing queen rearing next year. Out of curiosity, when you rear your queens, how do you know they are mated with buckfast drones and not with AMM drones? So you can tell from the offspring of the daughter kind of roughly what they're mating with. They'll definitely be mating with some AMM drones, because AMM drones are going to be like the natural bee that's in the air. Feral and probably mixed genetics, but there'll be a high percentage of AMM in there. So then when you're trying to get queens mated, the job is quite simple. It's to take you to get your bees to the most isolated place possible where there's no bees, and then add the drones in that you want. And you'll never get that perfect in the UK. You can get it perfect in some places like across Europe and on islands and stuff, but within the UK, you'll struggle to get it perfect. There's plenty of places where you'd get it very, very good though. And then you can kind of tell most of the time by the color and the shape of the bee and the size of the bee and the look of their wings, but it's mainly the color that people would go on. Noel says, hi, would you consider supplying AMM queens as an option for next year? So unfortunately not, we don't supply any AMM queens. I like nice calm bees, and I really think that calm bees are like the cornerstone of beekeeping. And if you're keeping bees in your garden, and for us, like, we sell nukes to people, we sell nukes to beginners and amateurs, and they need to be accessible bees. And I've not had any experience where the AMM, especially the AMM around me, have been like anywhere near the level that I'd be happy to sell to someone. And then also just like little things like chalk brood. Like when we had AMM, the chalk brood was rife. And I remember saying to the breeder, saying, what's with all the chalk brood? And they said, oh, that's just what the bees do. And I said, like, can you not breed it out? And they said, no, tried. Just make do with a really terrible chalk brood forever then. It's a surprising one, because you take a chalk broody AMM colony like that and you pop in a buckfast queen and the chalk brood goes away. So it's you can breed it out, but AMM are very, very susceptible to it. So that's one of the reasons, but it's mainly the temperament reason, and the fact that I couldn't vouch for their temperament that we don't sell them. Louise says, morning, Lawrence. You missed my question because of sound. I'm sorry about that, Louise. Louise says, I have 3 flow hives on 2 broods and 1 super each, but need to take supers off. Broods are packed full of bees. How do I get them onto 1 brood, or shall I keep 2 over winter? Super simple. Take the super off, leave them in the configuration, double brood over winter. It's by far and away the easiest way of doing it. Best for the bees, best for the beekeeper, least amount of risk. And yeah, the bees will be happy. So I would do that. Paul says, I know it's Paul. Denby Honey says, nobody has mentioned anything about wasps this year yet. I'm not sure about anyone else, but we have next to no wasps at all. Is the heat affecting their success rate this year? There are no wasps. There are no wasps. The cover adverts and the posts saying the wasps are coming didn't go down this well this year because they did not come, which is good. And this is what 14-Day Beekeeper is about. I can give you and I can recommend and say, this is the hot spot. This is the time of the year where you should be worried about wasps. So get your defenses ready. Yeah, just don't spill syrup everywhere. Reduce entrances down. get your bees into a position where they can cope with the wasps. And then the wasps have not come this year. It doesn't look like they're going to come either. You start to get some big wasps' nests building up and becoming a nuisance, but it doesn't look like there's that many. So there's not really any, you've not lost anything by doing all of the things and getting them prepared. And believe me, if the wasps had come, all of those things would have worked really, really well. But being able to kind of assess that, like Paul has, and look around and say, there's no wasps this year. It's really strange. Like, there was loads of wasps this time last year. I wonder why it is. And I think it probably is that. Remember the June gap? How weird was the June gap this year? It was 3 weeks of mega cold damp. Like, it was winter in June. And then we've had a huge heat wave after that. So it could be that combination of cold and then heat. I don't know what the issue is, but it's good. There's nowhere near as many wasps this year. Dinesh says, another good news story. A first-year beekeeper here who got a swarm this season. It swarmed again, and I requeened it during the year with a Black Mountain Honey Queen. Harvested 44 pounds of honey this week and got the varroa treatments in. Thanks for the advice and for the queens for my first year. I really do, Dinesh. I love hearing people's success stories because it makes me think about like my own success stories and how excited I feel. Like this year, I had a colony that had loads of honey, one colony, and just going through it thinking, oh, I wish they were all like this. But just the sheer excitement of like seeing the honey there and taking it off and extracting it and being like, oh, this is really good fun. But to see other people doing that, like for me, is nicer, is better, because it proves what we're selling is like, it's legit, it's real. It's not just like, oh, come and join our course, it's wonderful and it's going to transform you and you're going to have loads of fun and you're going to have healthy bees and get loads of honey and you'll probably end up telling all your mates. And then people click on it and they're like, oh, that was rubbish. Like, that was a really rubbish course. Can I have my money back, please? And I've had 2 people ask for their money back on 14-Day Beekeeper out of like 1,500 who signed up now, and both of them were really nice. Yeah, they were both really similar, like similar emails. They messaged the day after and they said, oh, hi there, signed up to 14-Day Beekeeper the other day, and I just have to say, like, it's really good and it's really comprehensive, and I can see why you've made it, and it's going to help loads of people. But like, I thought it was gonna help me. Like, I've been keeping bees for 6 or 7 years. I think it's just like, I'm not sure I'm going to get that much value out of it, but like, well done. And that was both of them. They were both the refunds that we had to give. And I'll always give like a refund. It's no issue giving a refund on 14-Day Beekeeper. It still did make me think, oh, there may be something in there we would get. But they were the negative comments. So I know that the thing that we're selling, like the community Hive-Q and 14-Day Beekeeper, is a good product and is helping people. People are recommending it and people are giving good snippets like that, Dinesh, to say, like, it worked, I got honey. And I do. I scroll through Hive-Q and see all of the honey jars and all of the harvest and all the excited people and the kids getting involved, and just think, yeah, this is what it's all about. Rianne says, okay, my question was, I'm 9-year-old massive fan. Oh, watch you every day. Love being in the community. I was asking, am I old enough to start beekeeping? And am asking, I'm almost ready to start halfway through a beekeeping book and still listening to 14-Day Beekeeper. And I was asking, what time do I start? Well, that's a brilliant question, Rianne, and amazing for being so interested in beekeeping at 9. My daughter is 8 and she is equally interested in beekeeping. Good question, though, because this time of year is not the best time of year to start beekeeping. Best time of year to start beekeeping is early in the spring, or at some point in the spring, maybe middle of April, back end of April, early May. Really nice time to get a colony of bees. Doing it at this time of the year, you might force your bees to do the wrong thing. You might not make the right decisions that could impact the bees going through the winter. So I always say to people, don't take the risk, because we can take the risk on the bees going through the winter, and then you get a nice, healthy, alive colony in the spring. And then what that gives you is a really nice chunk of time now, between now and say March, to learn and to absorb as much information as possible and to try and plan exactly what you want to get out of your beekeeping season, what you want to focus in on, whether it's bees or queens or wax or honey or just planting. That's one of the things that I found this year that I really enjoyed. It's like a subtopic of beekeeping, but just going into my garden and planting some like random herbs to try and give the bees like a little bit of help. And the help's only going to be a tiny amount, but it's nice. I think if we're keeping bees, we should do something to maybe give something back to the other pollinators as well. So good luck with it, Rianne. I hope you swat up over the winter season, and yeah, good luck with your beekeeping next year. Alexis says, when are the 2027 nukes going to be released to Hive-Q and the Hive-Q community? I am first year beekeeper and can't wait to know so I can have some. So we will definitely be releasing all of our nukes exclusively to Hive-Q first, 100%. I'm not sure yet when. Probably 15th of September. That's our target. So that's when the website's due to go live, 15th of September. If you wanted, like, if I was giving you my project manager, not giving away all of my float, I'd say 1st of October. There we go. 1st of October, and we'll probably beat that date. But I will give people on Hive-Q the chance to secure them first. They are going to be very, very restricted this year. There's not as many as there was last year, and we're not doing summer nukes next year is the plan. So it's only going to be overwintered nukes that are available, and they're limited in quantity. So quite a bit of change coming across the board, and as always, Hive-Q members will be first in line. So there we go. I got to the end. I'm really sorry about the audio issues on that one as well. We will fix it again for next week. I'm just going to fix my audio. I don't know what we're going to do. If you want 33 days of Hive-Q to get the live streams as they go live, 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, and to get your questions answered in laid back style, then I'll stick the link at the bottom there and we'll get you a free 30 days. But I hope you all have a very good weekend. I'll see you next week.